My name is Gregory Hill. My brand is called Hill Tops. I'm a toy maker specializing in spinning tops. The Hopi have a spinning top called a patukya. So it is my mission as an artist and toy maker is to revitalize an old toy that's dying out in our culture by taking what was once a simple spinning top unadorned with color or anything and adding designs, adding color to it. One of my main motivations as an artist and toy maker is to recreate a sense of joy in the world. We all possess childlike wonder. Sometimes when we grow older, we lose that. But it's funny because sometimes as we grow older, that really comes back in a strong way. You know, somehow dementia, sometimes, getting Alzheimer's, and we revert to that childlike state. So through my creations, with the use of motion and color and the simple act of playing, I'm recreating this childlike wonder and that little kid magic, as I like to call it. Bringing that back into the world, because they say it's a lot harder to smile than to frown. So I got my work cut out for me by creating these little toys that make you smile. But I think that's like one of my main rewards as an artist, toy maker, is to see that childlike wonder and that sparkle come into a person's eye, whether you're 9 or 90 years old. That shows me that my theories about having this little kid magic and this sense of wonder in you, although it may fade, it comes back to you when we see these little acts of playing. The dying art of play I see because of the use of technology and whatnot. We're all losing the art of play, the act of playing to moving. Our big movements now are this rather than being active outside, even indoors. So I'm hoping to bring back childlike wonder, sense of play, activity, moving around. I had a little short story of like a 90-year-old man came to one of my shows, and he remembered what a top was, and he was trying to describe it to me, and I was like, well, by all means, try it. He was so old, and he probably hasn't made those movements in, 60 years, I guess. And it took him a while to get to that point where he can actually move it. But it was in doing so, his body was reawakening to those playing movements. So it took him about 5 times to get low enough to actually start the top, and his whole face lit up and like magically turned into a little kid at that point because he remembered. And that's one of my big things is I remember, and I really want to continue that. I remember back in 1906 playing with the top, and I want to hear these new generations of children and adults, like in 2036. I remember playing with the top, like that back in 2010. So that's one of my big things is to bring joy to the earth in the form of play and color.
Very nice. And I'm Jonah Hill. I'm Gregory's brother. We're Hopi and Quetzal from the village of Kikutsmobi, Tobacco and Rabbit Clan. And I do a very different kind of art form. I'm a silversmith. I started out as a wood carver, traditional Hopi Katsina doll carver. For about 14 years, got into that just because my godbrother is son of Coolidge Roy Jr., who's a very famous Kachina doll carver. So at that time when I was carving, I was just kind of out on the res, not really doing anything, and I figured I had to figure out something to make some money and to keep occupied, so I would hang out with him a lot, and he was probably a lot younger than us, so I was a young guy, pretty famous carver already, so I just kind of would sit around and like sand his dolls for him or stuff like that, and finally picked up a knife and started getting into it, but after a while I started getting bored with it, I stopped seeing stuff in the wood, so whenever I was carved, I would look at the piece of wood and see something in there and bring it out, But after a while, that stopped happening. So I was just seeing wood, and whenever I would carve, it would be like kind of forcing something out of there rather than seeing what's the natural aspect of the wood was, So I heard about the Institute for American Indian Arts and was working as a medicinal herbalist at the time and was just kind of not really digging it, So I figured since I'm not wood carving, I needed to learn something different, you know. So I applied for the school for metalsmithing, and the shop I was working at, they have a Native American art gallery there. So I kind of was starting to look at the jewelry and in my mind, like wondering, well, how do they make this, you know? Like, wow, what do they get, like this kind of patina, and like what is this stone, you know? And so I figured if I wanted to do a change, you know, I would make myself a metalsmith. So what's really interesting is that our mom, I guess apparently our great-great-grandfather was a silversmith, and we never knew about it, you know? So when I was going to Santa Fe, my mom called me up and told me to come get these boxes, you know, at her house. I was like, oh, okay, I'll just go say bye because they got moving boxes, you know. But so she's like, oh yeah, they're all in the closet there. So I went into the closet, and there's 3 toolboxes and an oxygen acetylene tank in there. So I was like, wow, what is all this, you know? And I started opening it up, and it's all silversmithing tools, like stones in there. I have no idea like what any of it was, you know, but he's like, oh yeah, that was your great-great-grandpa's stuff, and I just had it, you know, so I've just been lugging it around for 30 years, you know, and just kind of sitting on it. So it's like, well, you should have told us about this when we were in high school. Yeah, so I went to Institute for American Indian Arts and learned metalsmithing, black and white photography, and printmaking. So nowadays I do metalsmithing, printmaking, and photography work, and it's just kind of a weird thing that I started out as a wood carver, but all the process that I do for jewelry, all are carbon process. So I came like tufa casting, cuttlebone casting, and lost wax casting. So when I was learning to do jewelry, it was lost wax casting, you know, and that's all carving process. So I just needed a different medium to carve, I guess. So nowadays I'm like wood carving again, and we had a big demand for my wood carvings whenever, like the one time a year I do it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so.
Great, man.
Yeah,
Well, anything you want to say for the video?
yeah, I encourage all the artists out there to continue doing what they're doing, you know, all our patrons to keep collecting. The patrons are a reason for making this art, you know. It's like they are the ones that give us inspiration, and kind of want that to continue, so. Yeah.
So, keep playing is what I could say, you know. It's not only for me, it's good for me, but you know, it's yeah, all I can say is like Jonah said, just keep striving to create your best art, and even if it's your worst art, you never know, it might be your best piece, because everybody has a different aspect on what beauty is and what art is. So can't be your perfect piece, but it might very well be, so just never stop trying.